By the third infusion, the chemo had begun to wear me down. A heavy-set Hasidic woman sat next to me on the long green sofa, both of us with IVs in our arms, connected to long poles holding the bags of medication. She quietly chatted in Yiddish with her friend from the yeshiva enclave upstate, who sat in a chair nearby. We had all sat across from each other for 2 full days of chemo during the previous month, and at the office visits in between treatments, never speaking. We would smile, we would nod, but say nothing. Not how are you feeling, not we're almost done, nothing. That afternoon, I leaned against my husband and finally put my head into his lap to sleep. My down coat lay in the small space on the couch between the woman and I as I huddled to make myself smaller. I felt her reach over and cover me with my coat and rub my back gently. I thought of my mother, who had died 5 years earlier, and how she had caressed my forehead when I was ill, and I wept silently, grateful for this woman's touch. When the 3 months of chemo were finally done, the visits to the office were not. Those appointments were different, as no infusion patients were scheduled. We waited for blood work and a physical, while new women nervously waited for their turn to speak with our oncologist to learn their fate. The Hasidic woman and I were now veterans, and we smiled knowingly to one another when an unfamiliar woman walked in. Her beautiful hair will be gone, we said to no one. Her beautiful eyes will tire. Her beautiful smile will fade. We simply looked at each other and nodded. During one of my final post-chemo visits, a short, round, Orthodox Jewish woman with chin-length dark hair sat on a wooden stool. She smiled at all of us in the crowded waiting room, clearly eager to chat, having recently just been diagnosed with breast cancer. "Is this your first time seeing the doctor?" I asked her. "Yes, I've heard wonderful things about him," she replied, grateful to be speaking with one of us. She didn't know that she'd be waiting more than 2 hours before she even set foot inside of an exam room, and no one had the heart to tell her. And she had not yet been introduced to the office manager, the woman who shouted at patients regularly, demanding they pay their bills. "How did you find out about him?" I asked. "Oh, my daughter-in-law found him for me," she said. "She's outside looking for a parking spot." I said, "Wow, a daughter-in-law who drove you in? Lucky you," I said as I smiled at her beaming face. "Oh, I am lucky. So very lucky," she said. Well, we all looked at each other. This woman had just been diagnosed with breast cancer and was about to spend the next 3 months rigorously fighting it with a bald head, days of vomiting and exhaustion, and considered herself lucky. "Really? Why is that?" I said. "My daughter-in-law is the most wonderful person in the world. She's kind and smart and a wonderful mother. I am truly blessed." No one said a word. I looked at my husband, the only man in the room, and finally said, "You know, I'll bet your mother never says that about me." And in that one moment, everything changed. The large Hasidic woman who had covered me with my coat laughed out loud, tears streaming down her face. A small, serious woman who I had never seen smile looked at her sister and chuckled. 2 other women could not stop laughing as they looked at me and grinned. Another put her hand over her mouth as she convulsed with laughter. The room was filled with mirth and good cheer, and we all smiled and nodded at each other as it slowly quieted. And finally, I understood. We had been speaking to each other all along.